You don't wake up ready to win by accident. Victory is decided before the day begins quietly, invisibly, while most people are still feeding their doubts in the dark. Tonight is not about hype. It's about installing an expectation so steady that morning has no choice but to follow it. Most people wake up reacting. They check the world first, then decide how they feel about themselves. By the time they realize it, the tone of the day has already been set by habit, by fear, by whatever thought spoke loudest before sleep. But the mind does not wait for morning to decide outcomes. It prepares all night. As the body rests, the conscious guard loosens. The mind becomes impressionable, receptive, obedient. Whatever it accepts now becomes tomorrow's posture. Not motivation assumption. An assumption is what reality responds to fastest. Think about how many days you started already tired, already cautious, already bracing for resistance. Not because resistance was guaranteed, but because it was expected. Expectation always moves first. Winning is not aggression, it is alignment. It is the quiet certainty that you are moving with momentum instead of against it. That certainty is not built in noise, it is built in rest. Most people try to prepare for success by planning harder, but plans collapse when the inner state is uncertain. The mind must expect success before it can recognize it. Tonight, preparation is internal. As you settle, notice how effort fades. This is not giving up. This is the moment the mind stops wrestling and starts receiving. Whatever is introduced here slips past doubt without argument. Expectation is powerful because it does not negotiate. It simply assumes. When you expect success, you interpret obstacles differently. Delays become adjustments. Challenges become signals. Resistance loses its authority. People who win consistently are not reckless. They are settled. Their minds are not scattered by every possibility because the outcome feels familiar long before it arrives. Familiarity breeds confidence. Confidence breeds decisive action. Decisive action compounds into results. This is why excitement is unnecessary. Excitement spikes and crashes, expectation remains. Most people fall asleep rehearsing what might go wrong. They call it realism. The mind calls it instruction, and it follows instructions faithfully. Tonight, the instruction changes. You are not asking for success. You are expecting it. Expectation is calm. It does not beg. It does not rush. It simply assumes cooperation. The mind loves clarity. When given a clear expectation, it begins filtering perception immediately. Opportunities stand out. Distractions fade. Timing sharpens. This filtering happens automatically when expectation is fixed. You don't need to visualize every win. You only need to agree with the idea that winning is normal for you. Normal outcomes require no justification. As repetition continues, the idea of success loses novelty and gains authority. Authority does not persuade, it directs. Notice how different ready to win feels from hoping to succeed. Hope waits. Readiness moves. Readiness is a state. States shape behavior more than logic ever could. Most people sabotage themselves before the day begins by waking up undecided. Undecided minds hesitate. Hesitation invites doubt. Doubt delays action. Expectation removes hesitation. When you expect success, you act sooner. You speak clearer. You persist longer. Not because you are forcing confidence, but because resistance no longer feels justified. This is the advantage created overnight. While you rest, the subconscious begins arranging priorities. It decides what deserves attention and what does not. It prepares responses before situations arise. This is why some people seem sharp in the morning. Their minds were already aligned while others were rehearsing worry. Winning does not require domination. It requires direction. Direction is installed when the mind stops arguing with itself. As these words repeat, the body relaxes further. Relaxation is not weakness. It is the signal that struggle is no longer needed. Struggle belongs to uncertainty. Expectation dissolves it. Most people believe pressure produces performance. Pressure produces tension. Tension narrows perception. Narrow perception misses opportunity. Calm expectation widens perception. Wide perception recognizes openings others never see. This is why winners appear lucky. Luck is recognition meeting readiness. You are not trying to control tomorrow. You are training the mind to assume cooperation instead of resistance. The mind responds to this shift immediately. Even now, patterns are being adjusted. Inner dialogue softens. Urgency fades. The nervous system recalibrates. The system cannot prepare for victory and panic at the same time. One replaces the other. Expectation becomes the dominant signal. You may notice the desire to analyze fade. Analysis belongs to uncertainty. Certainty does not explain itself. You don't need proof tonight. Proof follows expectation, not the other way around. This is where most people fail. They wait for evidence before they believe. Evidence is the result of belief acted upon consistently. Tonight, belief is being installed without force. Winning is not a single event. It is a posture. A way of meeting the world that assumes responsiveness rather than resistance. That posture is forming now. As the hours pass, the subconscious continues its work. It primes confidence. It organizes memory. It prepares the body to respond with steadiness rather than reaction. You are not asleep while this happens. You are being trained. Training done in rest is deeper than training done in effort. This is why the change feels subtle. Subtle changes last. In the morning, you may not feel dramatically different. That is how true readiness feels: grounded, unremarkable, solid. But you will notice it in what you don't do. You won't hesitate as long. You won't second guess as much. You won't shrink before action. Those absences are signs of expectation doing its work. Success feels closer when the mind stops treating it as exceptional. Exceptional outcomes come from normalized expectation. You are normalizing success tonight, not by affirming loudly, not by convincing emotionally, but by agreeing quietly. Agreement is powerful because it removes inner conflict. When conflict ends, energy becomes available. Available energy moves things. As repetition continues, the idea of winning tomorrow begins to feel obvious. Obvious things do not create anxiety. They create momentum. This is momentum forming before action. Most people try to generate momentum after they wake. That is inefficient. Momentum, created in rest, is already moving when the day begins. You are waking up into motion, not trying to create it. This is the difference. Let the body sink deeper now. There is nothing to rehearse, nothing to fix, nothing to anticipate. The expectation has already been set. While you sleep, the mind holds to it without interference. When morning arrives, you will meet the day differently, not aggressively, not nervously, but prepared. Prepared minds win because they recognize the moment when it appears, and moments favor those who expect them. Rest here. The day ahead has already been introduced to a mind that expects success, and expectation, once fixed, does not change its mind. Winning is not something a man rushes into after sunrise. It is something he wakes already prepared to meet. Long before the world presents its challenges, the mind has chosen its posture. That posture determines whether events are met with confidence or hesitation. Most men believe the day begins when their eyes open. In truth, the day begins when the mind accepts its final thought before rest. That thought sets the tone. Tone governs reaction. Reaction governs outcome. I have observed that men who win consistently do not begin their days negotiating with themselves. They do not argue their way into action. They rise already settled, already decided, already aligned. This alignment is not excitement. Excitement is unstable. It rises quickly and collapses just as fast. Alignment is quiet. It does not announce itself. It simply holds. The majority of men wake already responding to yesterday. They replay unfinished worries, unanswered questions, imagined resistance. Before the day speaks, fear has already spoken for them. Fear does not need evidence, it only needs repetition. When the mind rehearses caution before sleep, caution becomes the posture of the morning. The man may not feel afraid, but he behaves defensively. Defense is not readiness. Defense reacts. Readiness directs. The man who wakes ready to win does not scan the day for danger. He scans for opportunity. This difference is subtle, but it determines everything that follows. Opportunity is not created by optimism. It is recognized by expectation. Expectation does not hope. It assumes. The mind that assumes success behaves differently without conscious effort. It speaks sooner. It decides faster. It persists longer. Not because it forces confidence, but because hesitation no longer feels justified. This is why preparation must occur at night. During the day, the mind argues. It resists instruction. It negotiates with comfort and fear. At night, resistance softens. Instruction passes through without debate. As the body rests, the conscious guard lowers. The subconscious listens closely. Whatever is accepted now becomes tomorrow's posture. Most men unknowingly give their subconscious instructions of defeat. They replay failures, rehearse caution, and brace for resistance. They call this realism. The mind calls it command, and it obeys. I have seen capable men sabotage their days before they began simply by waking undecided. Undecided minds hesitate. Hesitation invites doubt. Doubt delays action. Delay invites opportunity to pass. This pattern repeats endlessly until the instruction changes. Winning men do not rely on morning motivation. Motivation fades. They rely on expectation formed in rest. Expectation remains quietly active. Andrew Carnegie did not wake wondering whether his efforts would matter. His purpose was settled long before the day demanded proof. That settlement freed his energy for action. Henry Ford did not begin his mornings calculating whether resistance would appear. He assumed progress. Resistance became a detail, not a barrier. These men did not eliminate obstacles. They eliminated inner conflict. Inner conflict drains strength before effort begins. When the mind is aligned, effort feels lighter. Tasks that once felt heavy are met without strain. This is not because the work changed. The posture did. Others sense this posture immediately. They feel that the man is not searching for confidence. He is operating from it. This invites cooperation rather than challenge. Confidence that explains itself is weak. Confidence that rests quietly is strong. The man who wakes ready to win does not rush. He does not need to prove urgency. He moves steadily because the outcome feels familiar. Familiarity breeds confidence. Confidence breeds decisiveness. Decisiveness does not shout. It chooses. Most people wait for evidence before they believe. Winners believe before evidence arrives. This belief is not blind. It is practiced. Practice occurs through repetition. Night repetition is the most powerful form of practice because it bypasses resistance. The mind does not argue when it is calm. It accepts. Acceptance becomes assumption. Assumption directs behavior without instruction. As you rest now, notice how effort fades. This fading is not weakness. It is preparation. Preparation without tension is the highest form. The body relaxes when the mind stops wrestling with possibility. Possibility narrows when expectation is fixed. Fixed expectation does not mean rigid plans. It means settled outcome. The man who expects to win interprets delays as adjustments, not rejection. He persists without drama. Persistence without drama is unstoppable. Others may call this luck. Luck is readiness meeting opportunity. Opportunity does not announce itself loudly. It appears quietly and moves quickly. Only prepared minds recognize it in time. Prepared minds are not frantic. They are attentive. Attentiveness requires calm. Calm is cultivated in rest, not in pressure. This is why tonight matters more than tomorrow morning. Tonight is when the mind decides how tomorrow will be met. Most men underestimate this moment. They surrender it to habit. Habit chooses for them. Tonight, the choice is reclaimed. You are not asking to win. You are agreeing with the idea that winning is normal for you. Normal outcomes require no explanation. The mind responds to what feels normal faster than to what feels desired. Desire waits. Expectation moves. As these ideas repeat, the concept of waking ready to win begins to feel obvious rather than hopeful. Obvious things do not create anxiety. They create momentum. Momentum formed in rest carries into action effortlessly. This is why some men appear sharp in the morning. Their minds were already aligned, while others were rehearsing doubt. The difference is not talent, it is instruction. Instruction given in calm becomes behavior without effort. As the body sinks deeper, allow the idea of readiness to remain without examination. Examination belongs to uncertainty. Certainty rests. Rest here now. Nothing needs to be proven. The day ahead is not something to conquer. It is something to meet prepared. Prepared minds win because they recognize the moment when it appears. That recognition is being installed now. The instruction has been given. The posture is forming, and the mind is already preparing to wake aligned with victory. Winning is not something a man rushes into after sunrise. It is something he wakes already prepared to meet. Long before the world presents its challenges, the mind has chosen its posture. That posture determines whether events are met with confidence or hesitation. Most men believe the day begins when their eyes open. In truth, the day begins when the mind accepts its final thought before rest. That thought sets the tone. Tone governs reaction. Reaction governs outcome. I have observed that men who win consistently do not begin their days negotiating with themselves. They do not argue their way into action. They rise already settled, already decided, already aligned. This alignment is not excitement. Excitement is unstable. It rises quickly and collapses just as fast. Alignment is quiet. It does not announce itself. It simply holds. The majority of men wake already responding to yesterday. They replay unfinished worries, unanswered questions, imagined resistance. Before the day speaks, fear has already spoken for them. Fear does not need evidence. It only needs repetition. When the mind rehearses caution before sleep, caution becomes the posture of the morning. The man may not feel afraid, but he behaves defensively. Defense is not readiness. Defense reacts. Readiness directs. The man who wakes ready to win does not scan the day for danger. He scans for opportunity. This difference is subtle, but it determines everything that follows. Opportunity is not created by optimism. It is recognized by expectation. Expectation does not hope. It assumes. The mind that assumes success behaves differently without conscious effort. It speaks sooner. It decides faster. It persists longer. Not because it forces confidence, but because hesitation no longer feels justified. This is why preparation must occur at night. During the day, the mind argues. It resists instruction. It negotiates with comfort and fear. At night, resistance softens. Instruction passes through without debate. As the body rests, the conscious guard lowers. The subconscious listens closely. Whatever is accepted now becomes tomorrow's posture. Most men unknowingly give their subconscious instructions of defeat. They replay failures, rehearse caution, and brace for resistance. They call this realism. The mind calls it command, and it obeys. I have seen capable men sabotage their days before they began simply by waking undecided. Undecided minds hesitate. Hesitation invites doubt. Doubt delays action. Delay invites opportunity to pass. This pattern repeats endlessly until the instruction changes. Winning men do not rely on morning motivation. Motivation fades. They rely on expectation formed in rest. Expectation remains quietly active. Andrew Carnegie did not wake wondering whether his efforts would matter. His purpose was settled long before the day demanded proof. That settlement freed his energy for action. Henry Ford did not begin his mornings calculating whether resistance would appear. He assumed progress. Resistance became a detail, not a barrier. These men did not eliminate obstacles. They eliminated inner conflict. Inner conflict drains strength before effort begins. When the mind is aligned, effort feels lighter. Tasks that once felt heavy are met without strain. This is not because the work changed. The posture did. Others sense this posture immediately. They feel that the man is not searching for confidence. He is operating from it. This invites cooperation rather than challenge. Confidence that explains itself is weak. Confidence that rests quietly is strong. The man who wakes ready to win does not rush. He does not need to prove urgency. He moves steadily because the outcome feels familiar. Familiarity breeds confidence. Confidence breeds decisiveness. Decisiveness does not shout. It chooses. Most people wait for evidence before they believe. Winners believe before evidence arrives. This belief is not blind. It is practiced. Practice occurs through repetition. Night repetition is the most powerful form of practice because it bypasses resistance. The mind does not argue when it is calm. It accepts. Acceptance becomes assumption. Assumption directs behavior without instruction. As you rest now, notice how effort fades. This fading is not weakness, it is preparation. Preparation without tension is the highest form. The body relaxes when the mind stops wrestling with possibility. Possibility narrows when expectation is fixed. Fixed expectation does not mean rigid plans. It means settled outcome. The man who expects to win interprets delays as adjustments, not rejection. He persists without drama. Persistence without drama is unstoppable. Others may call this luck. Luck is readiness meeting opportunity. Opportunity does not announce itself loudly. It appears quietly and moves quickly. Only prepared minds recognize it in time. Prepared minds are not frantic. They are attentive. Attentiveness requires calm. Calm is cultivated in rest, not in pressure. This is why tonight matters more than tomorrow morning. Tonight is when the mind decides how tomorrow will be met. Most men underestimate this moment. They surrender it to habit. Habit chooses for them. Tonight, the choice is reclaimed. You are not asking to win. You are agreeing with the idea that winning is normal for you. Normal outcomes require no explanation. The mind responds to what feels normal faster than to what feels desired. Desire waits. Expectation moves. As these ideas repeat, the concept of waking, ready to win begins to feel obvious rather than hopeful. Obvious things do not create anxiety. They create momentum. Momentum formed in rest carries into action effortlessly. This is why some men appear sharp in the morning. Their minds were already aligned while others were rehearsing doubt. The difference is not talent. It is instruction. Instruction given in calm becomes behavior without effort. As the body sinks deeper, allow the idea of readiness to remain without examination. Examination belongs to uncertainty. Certainty rests. Rest here now. Nothing needs to be proven. The day ahead is not something to conquer. It is something to meet prepared. Prepared minds win because they recognize the moment when it appears. That recognition is being installed now. The instruction has been given, the posture is forming, and the mind is. Already preparing to wake, aligned with victory. Excitement has been mistaken for power by many men. It feels strong because it rises quickly, but it falls just as fast. What rises and falls cannot be trusted to carry a man through difficulty. Winning requires something quieter and far more durable. Calm readiness does not announce itself. It does not surge. It holds. Where excitement demands expression, readiness requires none. It is present without effort, like balance in a man who knows where he stands. I have observed that men who rely on excitement exhaust themselves before their work is finished. They begin with energy and end with hesitation. Their confidence fades when emotion fades. Emotion was never meant to lead. Emotion is fuel, not direction. The man who wakes ready to win does not depend on feeling inspired. He depends on alignment. Alignment remains when emotion changes. This is why readiness survives pressure while excitement collapses under it. Excitement narrows perception. It focuses the mind too tightly on immediate reward. Calm readiness widens perception. It allows the man to see timing, opportunity, and adjustment without strain. This widening is the source of what others call good judgment. Men who appear lucky are often calm. They notice what frantic minds overlook. They recognize openings because they are not rushing past them. Rushing belongs to excitement. Readiness moves at its own pace. Henry Ford was often described as unhurried, even stubbornly calm. His calm was not hesitation. It was certainty without display. He did not need excitement to act because action already felt natural. Andrew Carnegie rarely showed urgency in decision. His composure allowed him to wait for the right moment without fear that waiting meant loss. Loss is feared only when outcome is uncertain. Certainty removes fear. The nervous system responds differently to calm readiness than to excitement. Excitement signals volatility. Calm signals safety. When safety is present, the mind operates more efficiently. Efficiency is the quiet advantage of winners. Most men believe pressure improves performance. Pressure tightens perception. Tight perception misses opportunity. Calm readiness keeps perception open. Open perception adapts. Adaptation is more valuable than intensity. The man who is calm can adjust without panic. The man who is excited must defend his emotion. Defense consumes energy. Others sense this difference immediately. Calm readiness feels trustworthy. Excitement feels unpredictable. People cooperate more readily with steadiness. This cooperation is not requested. It is invited by presence. Presence is the natural expression of readiness. Excitement pulls attention outward. Readiness anchors attention inward. Anchored attention does not scatter under challenge. Scattered attention produces errors that excitement cannot correct. Readiness corrects quietly. As you rest now, notice how calm does not require effort. Effort signals strain. Strain invites doubt. Calm removes both. The mind associates calm with familiarity. Familiarity breeds confidence. Confidence does not need reinforcement. This is why winning men appear composed even before success arrives. Their confidence does not wait for evidence. It rests on expectation. Expectation is steady. Excitement is fragile. Fragile states must be protected. Steady states protect themselves. The man who wakes ready to win does not need a strong feeling to begin. He begins because beginning feels appropriate. Appropriateness is stronger than enthusiasm. Enthusiasm fades. Appropriateness remains. Others may mistake calm readiness for indifference. Time reveals the difference. Indifference avoids effort. Readiness sustains it. Sustained effort outlasts bursts of passion. As the night continues, allow excitement to release its grip. There is nothing to stimulate. Stimulation belongs to uncertainty. Certainty rests. Rest does not dull readiness. It sharpens it. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. I am calm and prepared. Readiness does not rush me. I act without strain. Steadiness carries me forward. These are not statements to create emotion. They are acknowledgments of condition. Condition shapes conduct more powerfully than desire ever could. The mind that rests in readiness does not chase confidence. Confidence appears naturally as hesitation fades. Hesitation belongs to doubt. Doubt dissolves when expectation is settled. This is why the morning of a prepared man feels different. He is not looking for momentum. Momentum is already present. Present momentum does not announce itself. It simply moves. Others feel this movement as certainty. They respond accordingly. As the body sinks deeper, allow readiness to remain without inspection. Inspection invites analysis. Analysis belongs to uncertainty. Certainty rests quietly. Rest here now. Calm is doing its work. Readiness is holding. And the mind is preparing to wake without resistance. The greatest mistake men make in preparing For success is attempting to do it while awake and resisting. During the day, the mind argues. It defends old habits. It negotiates with fear and comfort. Instruction given in this state is weakened by opposition. At night, opposition rests. As the body relaxes, the conscious guard lowers. The mind becomes receptive, impressionable, and obedient. Whatever enters now passes without debate. This is not weakness, it is access. All lasting change enters through this doorway. I have taught for years that autosuggestion works best when effort ceases. Effort signals doubt. Doubt invites resistance. Calm repetition, offered in rest, becomes assumption. Assumption directs behavior without instruction. Most men believe preparation requires planning. Plans are useful, but plans collapse when the inner state is unsettled. A settled mind adapts plans easily. An unsettled mind abandons them quickly. Winning does not begin with plans. It begins with posture. Posture is the way the mind stands in relation to life. A defeated posture braces for resistance. A winning posture expects cooperation. Expectation changes how information is processed. The same event produces different meaning depending on posture. Meaning determines response. Response determines outcome. This is why preparation must occur before thought resumes its arguments. At night, the mind does not insist on proof. It accepts instruction quietly. Most men misuse this time. They fall asleep rehearsing fear. They replay failures. They imagine resistance. The mind accepts these images as guidance, and it obeys faithfully. Tonight, the guidance changes. You are not forcing belief. You are allowing familiarity. Familiar ideas feel true. The subconscious treats familiarity as fact. Fact requires no defense. As the idea of readiness repeats calmly, it settles. It stops feeling new. New ideas require effort. Familiar ideas guide automatically. This is the goal. Men who wake ready to win do not remind themselves to be confident. Confidence does not require reminders when it is assumed. Assumption creates consistency. Consistency is what others trust. Others sense when a man is not improvising confidence. They feel that his steadiness does not depend on circumstances. This invites cooperation rather than challenge. Cooperation appears naturally around settled minds. The mind that is trained in rest responds differently under pressure. Pressure no longer feels threatening. It feels expected and manageable. Expected conditions do not create anxiety. Anxiety belongs to surprise. Readiness removes surprise. This is why winning men appear unshaken when obstacles arise. Obstacles were already included in their expectation. Inclusion removes shock. Shock wastes energy. As the body rests now, the subconscious begins arranging priorities. It decides what deserves attention and what does not. It prepares responses before situations arise. Preparation done without strain is deeper than preparation done with effort. Effort keeps the mind alert. Alert minds do not absorb instruction. Resting minds do. This is why training done in sleep outlasts training done in wakefulness. I have seen men change the direction of their lives simply by changing what they allowed the mind to accept before sleep. The change was not dramatic. It was consistent. Consistency produces momentum. Momentum does not announce itself. It accumulates quietly. Others describe this as being in control. Control here does not mean domination. It means inner agreement. Inner agreement ends hesitation. Hesitation is the first visible sign of inner conflict. As conflict dissolves, decisiveness appears without effort. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. My mind accepts readiness. Winning feels familiar. I rest in expectation. Preparation happens quietly. These are not commands to the mind, they are permissions. Permission removes resistance. Resistance is unnecessary now. As the night deepens, allow instruction to continue without supervision. Supervising implies doubt. Doubt interrupts absorption. Absorption installs habit. Habit governs conduct automatically. This is why morning behavior will feel different without conscious intention. You will move sooner, speak clearer, decide faster, not because you are trying, because posture has changed. The day will not need to convince you to act. Action will feel appropriate. Appropriateness is stronger than motivation. Motivation fluctuates, appropriateness remains. Others will notice this difference before you do. They will comment on your calm, on your certainty, on your steadiness. They may not know why it changed. You will not need to explain it. Explanation belongs to doubt. Readiness does not explain itself. As the body sinks deeper, allow the idea of victory to feel ordinary. Ordinary success does not create anxiety. It creates flow. Flow moves without friction. Friction belongs to uncertainty. Uncertainty has been quieted. Rest now. The posture of victory is being installed, and it will be waiting for you when morning arrives. The first outward sign that a man has begun to win is not applause or reward. It is decisiveness. Decisions come sooner. They are made with less inner debate. The man no longer circles his choices as though danger were hidden in every direction. Hesitation is not caution. It is uncertainty rehearsed. When the mind does not expect success, it delays action to avoid imagined loss. Delay feels safe, but it quietly erodes opportunity. The man who wakes ready to win does not eliminate risk. He eliminates unnecessary delay. He understands that clarity grows from movement, not from endless evaluation. Evaluation without end exhausts the mind. Movement restores order. Decisiveness does not require perfect knowledge. It requires settled expectation. When success is assumed, the mind stops demanding guarantees. It proceeds with confidence that correction is possible if needed. This confidence does not shout. It moves. I have observed that men who hesitate most often believe they are being careful. In truth, they are protecting uncertainty. Uncertainty fears commitment because commitment closes alternatives, but alternatives are what keep the mind divided. Division weakens force. Unity strengthens it. When expectation is fixed, unity returns. The mind agrees with itself. Agreement removes friction. Friction is what once made decisions feel heavy. Once friction dissolves, decisions feel natural. Henry Ford was often criticized for making decisions quickly. What his critics called recklessness was actually clarity. His direction was settled. Details were secondary. Andrew Carnegie did not deliberate endlessly over every move. His chief aim filtered decisions automatically. What served it remained. What did not was dismissed without conflict. These men were not guessing. They were aligned. Alignment shortens decision time because fewer options feel relevant. Most men overwhelm themselves with options because they have not settled outcome. Outcome settled narrows choice. Narrow choice conserves energy. Conserved energy produces endurance. Endurance outlasts enthusiasm every time. Others notice decisiveness immediately. They feel that this man will not waste their time. They trust his judgment because it is consistent. Consistency builds reputation faster than brilliance ever could. The decisive man does not explain himself excessively. Explanation belongs to doubt. Decision does not defend itself. This quiet confidence attracts cooperation. People respond more readily to those who know where they stand. As the night continues, the subconscious reinforces this pattern. It prepares the mind to choose without strain. It removes the need to rehearse outcomes excessively. Rehearsal belongs to fear. Expectation removes fear by assuming success. You may notice now that the idea of choosing feels lighter. This lightness is not carelessness. It is trust in correction rather than obsession with prevention. Prevention alone cannot create progress. Progress requires commitment. Commitment closes loops in the mind. Closed loops do not demand attention. This is why decisiveness brings relief. Relief signals alignment. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. I decide without strain. Expectation guides my choices. I move forward confidently. Correction is always possible. These are not bold claims. They are acknowledgments of a new posture. Posture governs action more than logic ever could. As the body rests, allow decisions to feel complete rather than tentative. Completion tells the mind that its work is finished. Finished work rests. The mind that rests does not reopen questions unnecessarily. Others will notice that you no longer revisit the same issues repeatedly. You will choose and move on. This movement creates momentum. Momentum does not require speed. It requires continuity. Continuity is created when decisions are honored rather than reconsidered endlessly. Honor your decisions by resting after making them. Rest confirms certainty. Certainty reduces mental noise. As noise fades, decisiveness strengthens further. This cycle reinforces itself quietly. The day ahead will present choices. You will meet them without hesitation, not because you force courage, but because readiness has removed doubt. This is how winning becomes visible, not through noise, not through urgency, but through calm, timely decision. Rest here now. The mind is learning to choose and release is the beginning of momentum. When a man expects to win, his presence changes before his circumstances do. He does not announce this change. He does not attempt to influence others deliberately. Influence appears naturally when inner certainty replaces inner conflict. Others sense certainty instinctively. They feel it before they understand it. They respond to it without knowing why. Human nature gravitates towards steadiness because steadiness feels safe. The man who once sought approval now appears self-contained. He listens without impatience. He speaks without urgency. His words are fewer, but they carry weight. Weight comes from agreement within. Agreement ends the need to persuade. Most men attempt to win cooperation through explanation. Explanation is effort. Effort signals uncertainty. Uncertainty invites resistance. The man who expects success does not argue his position. He states it plainly and moves forward. Movement communicates confidence more convincingly than words ever could. This is why leadership often emerges quietly. It is not seized, it is recognized. I have observed that men with settled expectation attract allies they did not pursue. People offer assistance without being asked. Opportunities appear without request. This is not chance. It is alignment at work. Alignment signals reliability. People invest their time and energy where they sense consistency. Consistency grows when the mind no longer wavers daily. Henry Ford attracted capable men because his direction did not shift with opinion. They trusted his steadiness even when they doubted his methods. Andrew Carnegie inspired loyalty because he expected cooperation rather than conflict. His expectations shaped his conduct. His conduct shaped response. The man who expects resistance often finds it quickly. He meets the world guarded. The world responds cautiously. Guard meets guard. The man who expects cooperation meets openness. He does not brace. He allows space. Space invites participation. This difference is subtle, but it changes everything. Others will notice that conversations with you feel simpler. They will feel that you are not defending yourself. Defense invites attack. Calm presence dissolves it. The need to prove oneself fades when expectation is settled. Proof is sought only when belief is unstable. Stability does not seek confirmation. This stability alters reputation quietly. You may hear comments that you seem more confident, more decisive, more grounded. These observations reflect internal change made visible. Visibility comes from consistency. Consistency comes from expectation. As expectation deepens, reactions soften. You will respond rather than react. Reaction belongs to fear. Response belongs to clarity. Clarity invites trust. Trust changes how others treat you. They listen more closely. They cooperate more readily. They hesitate less in your presence. This is not because you demand it. It is because your mind no longer sends conflicting signals. Conflicting signals confuse others. Clear signals invite alignment. Clear signals emerge when the mind is unified around outcome. Outcome expected removes inner debate. Inner debate once leaked into tone, posture, timing. Those leaks have closed. Others feel the difference immediately. They may not know what changed, but they know something did. The man who wakes ready to win does not rush to fill silence. Silence is no longer threatening. Silence gives others space to respond. Space produces cooperation. As the night continues, the subconscious prepares you for this new dynamic. It reduces defensiveness. It steadies expression. It sharpens listening. These changes do not feel forced. They feel natural. Natural changes last. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. I expect cooperation. My presence is steady. Others respond to my certainty. Alignment invites opportunity. These are not affirmations meant to control others. They are acknowledgments of cause and effect. Cause is internal. Effect follows naturally. You are not attempting to change people. You are allowing alignment to shape interaction. This is why resistance fades. Resistance feeds on uncertainty. Certainty starves it. The day ahead will bring interactions. You will notice that some conflicts do not arise. Some obstacles soften. Some conversations resolve quickly. These are signs of expectation at work. Expectation communicates itself without effort. Effort would weaken it. As the body sinks deeper, allow this understanding to settle without examination. Examination implies doubt. Doubt interrupts absorption. Absorption installs habit. Habit governs behavior automatically. This is why tomorrow's interactions will feel different without conscious planning. Planning belongs to effort. Alignment operates on its own. Rest now. The mind is learning to expect cooperation, and cooperation responds readily to expectation. There comes a point when winning no longer feels like an event waiting to happen. It feels like a condition already in place. At this stage, the mind stops preparing for victory and begins operating from it. This shift is quiet, but it is final. When winning becomes normal, effort decreases. Effort belongs to uncertainty. Normal conditions do not require reinforcement. They guide behavior automatically. Most men fail not because they lack ability, but because success never becomes familiar. It remains something hoped for, admired, or feared. What remains unfamiliar is treated cautiously. Caution slows action. The man who wakes ready to win no longer treats success as exceptional. He treats it as expected. Expected outcomes require no emotional buildup. This expectation removes strain. Strain once drained energy before action began. Now energy is conserved. Conserved energy compounds into endurance. Endurance outlasts every advantage except alignment. Alignment has been installed. Others recognize this permanence instinctively. They describe such men as reliable, steady, inevitable. Inevitability is not force. It is consistency without interruption. Consistency is identity made visible. Identity governs behavior more reliably than intention ever could. A man may abandon an intention, but he rarely abandons who he believes himself to be. When winning becomes identity, retreat becomes unnatural. This is why men who reach this stage do not speak often of success. Speech belongs to uncertainty. Certainty lives quietly. They are not arrogant. They are settled. Settlement ends inner debate. Without debate, energy flows into action without resistance. Action feels appropriate rather than forced. Appropriateness produces confidence without display. Others trust confidence that does not seek attention. Trust attracts opportunity. Opportunity recognizes readiness. The man no longer chases opportunity. He recognizes it. Recognition is faster than pursuit. This is why winning appears effortless to observers. They see results without seeing struggle. The struggle occurred earlier, during alignment. Alignment work is invisible. Once alignment is complete, movement is smooth. Setbacks are handled differently now. They are treated as adjustments, not threats. Threat perception belongs to uncertainty. Certainty absorbs correction calmly. Correction no longer reopens doubt. This stability allows persistence without emotional cost. Emotional cost exhausted the undisciplined mind. That cost is gone. The nervous system no longer braces for resistance. It responds when response is needed. Then rests. Rest sustains clarity. Clarity sustains judgment. Judgment produces timing. Timing creates advantage. Advantage compounds naturally when expectation remains steady. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. Winning is normal for me. I act from certainty. Momentum carries me forward. What I expect continues. These are not ambitions. They are acknowledgments of identity. Identity does not need reinforcement. It expresses itself through habit. Habit governs mornings now. You will wake without negotiation, without inner argument, without the need to convince yourself to begin. Beginning will feel appropriate. Appropriateness does not rush. It moves when the moment arrives. This patience sharpens timing. Timing distinguishes winners more than strength or speed ever could. Others may attempt to imitate your results. They will not understand that the source was not effort, but expectation practiced in rest. Rest did the work. The mind no longer needs instruction. It knows what posture to hold. Posture holds itself. As the night continues, sleep will deepen naturally. There is nothing left to install, nothing left to reinforce. The system is complete enough to sustain itself. When morning arrives, you will not need to remember these words. Memory belongs to effort. Habit does not require memory. You will simply rise aligned. Aligned minds win because they do not waste energy resisting themselves. Resistance is gone. What remains is readiness. Readiness is calm. Calm is powerful. And power, when steady, does not announce itself. Rest now. The posture of winning has been accepted. And what is accepted no longer needs to be questioned. There is nothing more to prepare now. Preparation belonged to the moment when the mind was undecided. Decision has already been made. The posture has been accepted. What remains is simply allowing it to stay without interference. Interference is the habit of uncertain minds. The mind that expects to win does not watch itself constantly. Watching implies doubt. Doubt reopens questions. Questions invite hesitation. Hesitation weakens posture. Posture holds when it is trusted. Trust is the final act of mastery. At this stage, the mind no longer rehearses tomorrow. Rehearsal belongs to fear of failure. Expectation has replaced that fear with familiarity. Familiar things do not require rehearsal. You do not rehearse how to stand or breathe. You simply do it. Winning now is like that. It is not something you motivate yourself toward. It is something you assume quietly and live from naturally. Others who have reached this stage rarely describe it clearly. They say only that life feels less resistant. Resistance fades when the mind stops expecting it. Expectation shapes perception. Perception shapes response. Response shapes result. This chain now operates without effort. The mind does not scan for danger when danger is no longer expected. It scans for usefulness. It notices timing. It recognizes opportunity without strain. This recognition feels calm, not urgent. Urgency belonged to uncertainty. Uncertainty has ended its service. The nervous system no longer prepares for struggle. It prepares for action when action is required, then returns to rest. This rhythm conserves strength. Strength conserved compounds. Compounded strength appears as endurance. Endurance makes success inevitable over time. This inevitability is felt by others. They may not know why they trust you more. They may not know why they cooperate more easily. They only know that your steadiness feels reliable. Reliability attracts responsibility. Responsibility invites opportunity. Opportunity meets readiness. Readiness has been established. As sleep deepens, there is no need to hold any thought in place. Holding implies effort. Effort invites tension. Tension interrupts absorption. Absorption has already occurred. Let thoughts come and go freely. They will not disturb alignment. Alignment does not depend on silence. It depends on assumption. Assumption remains even when thought wanders briefly. This is how permanence is formed. Temporary states require protection. Permanent states do not. The mind now treats winning as normal. Normal conditions guide behavior automatically. They do not require reminders. Reminders belong to effort. Effort has completed its role. If you wake briefly during the night, you will notice something different. There will be no rush to think. No need to plan. Quiet will be present without invitation. Quiet does not feel empty. It feels sufficient. Sufficiency is the signal that nothing is missing. When nothing is missing, the mind rests deeply. Deep rest restores clarity. Clarity sharpens judgment. Judgment improves timing. Timing creates advantage. Advantage compounds without strain. This is how men win steadily without appearing to. Struggle. They settled the matter earlier. You have settled it now. There is no need to remember what was said. Memory belongs to effort. This condition is held by habit, not recall. Habit has been reshaped. The coming days will reflect this quietly. You will notice fewer inner debates, fewer delays, less second-guessing, more movement at the right moment. These absences are the proof. Winning is no longer a goal. It is the condition from which action begins. Action taken from this condition feels appropriate, not forced. Appropriate action lasts. Let sleep continue now without supervision. The mind is finished arranging itself. Readiness is stable. Expectation is fixed. And what is fixed quietly directs everything that follows. Rest here. Nothing needs attention. The posture of winning remains. There is nothing more to prepare now. Preparation belonged to the moment when the mind was undecided. Decision has already been made. The posture has been accepted. What remains is simply allowing it to stay without interference. Interference is the habit of uncertain minds. The mind that expects to win does not watch itself constantly. Watching implies doubt. Doubt reopens questions. Questions invite hesitation. Hesitation weakens posture. Posture holds when it is trusted. Trust is the final act of mastery. At this stage, the mind no longer rehearses tomorrow. Rehearsal belongs to fear of failure. Expectation has replaced that fear with familiarity. Familiar things do not require rehearsal. You do not rehearse how to stand or breathe. You simply do it. Winning, now, is like that. It is not something you motivate yourself toward. It is something you assume quietly and live from naturally. Others who have reached this stage rarely describe it clearly. They say only that life feels less resistant. Resistance fades when the mind stops expecting it. Expectation shapes perception. Perception shapes response. Response shapes result. This chain now operates without effort. The mind does not scan for danger when danger is no longer expected. It scans for usefulness. It notices timing. It recognizes opportunity without strain. This recognition feels calm, not urgent. Urgency belonged to uncertainty. Uncertainty has ended its service. The nervous system no longer prepares for struggle. It prepares for action when action is required, then returns to rest. This rhythm conserves strength. Strength conserved compounds. Compounded strength appears as endurance. Endurance makes success inevitable over time. This inevitability is felt by others. They may not know why they trust you more. They may not know why they cooperate more easily. They only know that your steadiness feels reliable. Reliability attracts responsibility. Responsibility invites opportunity. Opportunity meets readiness. Readiness has been established. As sleep deepens, there is no need to hold any thought in place. Holding implies effort. Effort invites tension. Tension interrupts absorption. Absorption has already occurred. Let thoughts come and go freely. They will not disturb alignment. Alignment does not depend on silence. It depends on assumption. Assumption remains even when thought wanders briefly. This is how permanence is formed. Temporary states require protection. Permanent states do not. The mind now treats winning as normal. Normal conditions guide behavior automatically. They do not require reminders. Reminders belong to effort. Effort has completed its role. If you wake briefly during the night, you will notice something different. There will be no rush to think, no need to plan. Quiet will be present without invitation. Quiet does not feel empty. It feels sufficient. Sufficiency is the signal that nothing is missing. When nothing is missing, the mind rests deeply. Deep rest restores clarity. Clarity sharpens judgment. Judgment improves timing. Timing creates advantage. Advantage compounds without strain. This is how men win steadily without appearing to struggle. They settled the matter earlier. You have settled it now. There is no need to remember what was said. Memory belongs to effort. This condition is held by habit, not recall. Habit has been reshaped. The coming days will reflect this quietly. You will notice fewer inner debates, fewer delays, less second-guessing, more movement at the right moment. These absences are the proof. Winning is no longer a goal. It is the condition from which action begins. Action taken from this condition feels appropriate, not forced. Appropriate action lasts. Let sleep continue now without supervision. The mind is finished arranging itself. Readiness is stable. Expectation is fixed. And what is fixed quietly directs everything that follows. Rest here. Nothing needs attention. The posture of winning remains. There is a kind of certainty that no longer needs reinforcement. It does not grow louder with repetition. It grows quieter. Quiet certainty does not check itself. It does not ask whether it is still present. It remains because nothing challenges it. You are resting inside that certainty now. The mind has stopped revisiting the question of readiness. Readiness no longer feels like a condition to achieve. It feels like the natural state from which action will arise when required. This is how identity forms. Identity does not argue with circumstance. It responds. Response replaces reaction when inner agreement is complete. Reaction belonged to uncertainty. Response belongs to readiness. Others often mistake this difference for confidence alone. Confidence is only the surface. Beneath it is something steadier. The absence of internal contradiction. Contradiction once drained energy before effort even began. That drain has been sealed. The mind no longer leaks attention into imagined outcomes. It conserves attention for what is present. Presence sharpens perception without strain. Sharp perception improves timing. Timing is the silent advantage that separates those who win repeatedly from those who merely try. Those who try are still negotiating with themselves. Those who win have already decided. Decision here does not feel heavy. It feels complete. Completion ends rehearsal. Rehearsal belonged to fear of being unprepared. That fear has lost its authority. Preparation is no longer questioned. The body recognizes this change. Breath deepens naturally. Muscles soften. The nervous system stands down. Standing down is not collapse. It is efficiency restored. Efficient systems do not waste energy bracing for what they do not expect. Expectation now favors progress. This expectation is not tied to a single event or outcome. It is broader. It is the assumption that effort will be met, that action will matter, that movement will be rewarded. Reward does not always appear immediately. The mind no longer demands immediacy. It trusts sequence. Trust in sequence removes impatience. Impatience once pushed thought forward unnecessarily. Thought raced ahead, creating tension. Tension exhausted clarity. Clarity has returned because pace has slowed. Slowed pace does not reduce effectiveness. It increases it. Effectiveness depends on accuracy, not speed. Accuracy improves when the mind is not crowded. The crowd has dispersed. If thoughts appear now, they are fewer and softer. They do not grip attention. They do not insist. They drift and dissolve. Dissolution feels natural because nothing is holding them in place. Holding belonged to effort. Effort has ended. Others who live from this state often describe it as feeling centered. The center does not move when the edges shift. This stability allows adaptation without panic. Adaptation without panic is mastery. Mastery is not perfection. It is the ability to adjust without losing direction. Direction is held now without tension. This is why the idea of winning no longer feels dramatic. Drama belongs to uncertainty. Certainty feels ordinary. Ordinary success compounds. The mind now treats progress as expected. Expected progress does not require encouragement. It unfolds. Unfolding is quieter than striving. Striving created noise. Noise obscured opportunity. Quiet reveals it. You may notice that there is no urge to visualize, affirm, or instruct anymore. That urge belonged to installation. Installation is complete. What remains is maintenance without effort. Maintenance occurs automatically when habit aligns with identity. Identity has shifted. You are no longer preparing to win. You are someone who expects to win. Expectation shapes posture. Posture shapes action. Action shapes result. This sequence now operates without conscious involvement. As the night continues, allow sleep to deepen freely. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to monitor, nothing to repeat deliberately. Deliberation is unnecessary. The mind is resting in alignment. Alignment does not fade overnight. It strengthens when left alone. Left alone is where it belongs. If morning arrives quietly, you will notice that you do not need to convince yourself to begin. Beginning will feel appropriate. Appropriateness is the signal that readiness is intact. You will not rush, you will not hesitate. You will move when movement serves. Others will feel this steadiness immediately. They may not name it. They will respond to it. Response follows certainty. Certainty is here. Let sleep carry you now without interference. The posture of winning does not need attention. It remains, and what remains quietly governs everything that follows. This exercise is not something you perform with strain. It is something you allow. The value does not come from effort, but from cooperation. The mind responds best when it is not commanded, but guided gently into agreement. Begin by allowing the body to become still, not rigid, simply settled. Let the weight of the body be supported fully. There is nothing to hold up, nothing to maintain. Stillness is not collapse. It is readiness without tension. Do not try to control the breath. Allow it to find its own rhythm. The breath will deepen naturally when the mind releases urgency. Each breath is a signal to the subconscious that effort is no longer required. As the breath settles, allow the mind to observe without judging. Thoughts may appear. Do not follow them. Do not resist them. Observation without engagement is the first act of authority. Authority does not argue. It allows. Now, begin the exercise by recalling no specific event, no past failure, no future goal. This exercise does not rely on memory or imagination. It relies on assumption. Assumption is the most powerful instruction the mind can receive. Quietly allow the idea to form not as a statement, but as a condition that winning is normal for you. Do not explain this idea. Explanation invites debate. Let it exist without language, as a feeling of familiarity. Familiar things do not require proof. Notice how the body responds when success is treated as ordinary rather than exceptional. There is no excitement. There is no tension. There is a sense of steadiness. This steadiness is the posture you are installing. Remain with it. If the mind attempts to question, do not answer. Questions lose strength when unanswered. Silence is not avoidance. It is completion. Now allow this thought to repeat slowly, without emphasis. Winning feels natural to me. Do not repeat it with force. Let it pass through the mind as though it has already been agreed upon. Pause. Now allow this thought to arise. I expect cooperation from life. Do not visualize cooperation. Expectation does not require imagery. It requires acceptance. Acceptance feels calm. Pause again. Notice how the mind is not rushing to argue. This is because repetition is calm, not demanding. Calm repetition installs habit without resistance. Now allow this idea to appear. I begin each day already prepared. Prepared does not mean tense. Prepared means settled. The mind knows where it stands. Pause. The subconscious accepts what is repeated calmly in rest. Each pause allows absorption to deepen. Now bring attention, not focus, to the idea of morning. Not a specific morning, just the concept of waking. Allow yourself to sense waking already aligned, without negotiation, without inner discussion. Do not picture events. Picture posture. Posture is how the mind stands. Stand mentally in that posture now. Notice how there is no rush to act, no urgency. Readiness does not rush. This posture does not require effort to maintain. It holds itself. If thought drifts, allow it. Drift here is harmless. The exercise does not depend on concentration. It depends on repetition. Now allow the following assumption to settle, slowly. My decisions come easily. Do not test this idea. Testing implies doubt. Let it rest as a fact. Pause. Now allow this. I move at the right moment. Timing does not require calculation when expectation is settled. Timing sharpens naturally. Pause again. At this point, you may notice that the body feels heavier and the mind quieter. This is not sleep yet. This is absorption. Absorption is where instruction becomes habit. Now allow the mind to acknowledge without pride that others respond differently to you when you are settled. Do not imagine reactions. Simply accept that steadiness invites cooperation. The subconscious understands social response instinctively. It does not need explanation. Pause. Now allow this. I do not need to prove myself. Proof is demanded only when belief is weak. Belief here is assumed. Pause. Notice how the absence of proof-seeking reduces tension. Now allow this final assumption to form. What I expect continues. This is not a wish. It is a law. Expectation repeated becomes experience. Pause longer here. Let the mind sit with this idea without commentary. If thoughts arise about how or when, allow them to pass. How belongs to the conscious mind. This exercise works beneath that level. Now allow silence, not forced silence, allowed silence. In this silence, the subconscious arranges itself. It organizes memory. It aligns habit. It prepares response. Preparation done here is deeper than preparation done with effort. If sleep arrives during this exercise, allow it. The exercise continues without awareness. The subconscious does not stop working because consciousness fades. If you remain awake, continue to rest in silence for a few breaths. Now gently return to repetition, but without words. Let the feeling of readiness repeat. Let the sense of winning feel ordinary. Let the absence of urgency confirm alignment. This is the moment where habit is sealed. Habit does not announce itself. It simply begins operating. If you wake briefly later in the night, do not restart the exercise. Restarting implies loss. Loss has not occurred. Habit remains. Simply return to rest. If thoughts attempt to reassert themselves, do not manage them. Management revives effort. Effort is no longer required. The exercise has done its work. Winning is no longer something you prepare for consciously. It is the posture from which action will arise. In the morning, do not test this posture. Testing implies doubt. Let the day reveal the result quietly. You will notice it not in dramatic feeling, but in absence. Less hesitation, less inner argument, less delay, more movement at the right moment. These absences are the proof. Repeat this exercise nightly for several nights, not to force change, but to confirm familiarity. Familiarity is what makes winning normal. Normal conditions do not disappear. They endure. Rest now. The exercise is complete. The posture has been installed, and what has been installed quietly governs everything that follows. There is a stage in the development of the mind where effort becomes unnecessary. At this stage, instruction has completed its work, and habit has taken its place. What once required attention now operates quietly, without supervision. This is where you are now. Winning no longer feels like something ahead of you. It feels like the ground beneath you. The mind has stopped asking whether it is ready. That question belonged to uncertainty. Uncertainty has been replaced by agreement. Agreement does not ask questions. It proceeds. Most men never reach this point because they continue to interfere. They check their progress. They test their confidence. They search for signs. In doing so, they revive the very doubt they wish to escape. You are not doing that now. You have learned something more valuable than confidence. You have learned settlement. Settlement is the end of inner debate. When the inner debate ends, energy stops leaking. That energy becomes available for use. Use does not require urgency. It requires direction. Direction is already present. This is why the mind feels quieter now, not empty, but ordered. Order is the true opposite of chaos, not silence. Silence can exist without order. Order produces silence naturally. The mind prefers order once it experiences it without threat. Threat is what once kept thought active. Threat required vigilance. Vigilance demanded constant preparation. Preparation is no longer needed. This does not mean life will offer no challenge. It means challenge will no longer confuse posture. Posture remains steady even when conditions shift. This is the mark of winning men. They do not rise and fall with circumstance. They adapt without losing themselves. The man who must convince himself daily that he will succeed has not yet settled the matter. The man who no longer revisits the question has. You have settled it. This settlement did not occur through intensity. It occurred through repetition in calm. Calm repetition is the only form that reaches the subconscious without resistance. Resistance has ended its service. You may notice that even the desire to maintain readiness has faded. Maintenance implies fear of loss. Loss is no longer expected. Expectation governs behavior more strongly than intention. Expectation now favors progress. Progress does not need encouragement. It unfolds when resistance is absent. The nervous system understands this. It has stopped bracing. Breath moves freely. Muscles remain softer. Recovery is quicker. These are not accidents. They are signals of alignment. Aligned systems conserve strength. Conserved strength becomes endurance. Endurance outlasts every advantage except clarity. Clarity is present now without effort. This clarity does not flood the mind with answers. It removes unnecessary questions. Questions that remain are practical. They arise when action is required and fade when action is taken. The mind no longer rehearses imagined outcomes. Rehearsal belonged to fear of being unprepared. Preparation is complete enough to sustain itself. This is why quiet feels sufficient now. Sufficiency is the signal that nothing is missing. When nothing is missing, the mind rests deeply. Deep rest restores judgment. Judgment improves timing. Timing creates advantage. Advantage compounds quietly. Others may begin to describe you differently. They may say you seem more certain, more grounded, more decisive. They may notice that you no longer rush to explain yourself or defend your position. Defense belongs to doubt. Certainty does not defend itself. This certainty is not rigid. It adjusts without collapsing. Correction does not threaten it. Correction refines it. Refinement is the natural process of mastery. Mastery does not require perfection. It requires steadiness. Steadiness is now your natural state. You may notice that setbacks no longer feel personal. They feel informational. Information invites response. Response replaces reaction. Reaction drained energy. Response conserves it. The man who reacts is ruled by circumstance. The man who responds remains in command. Command here does not mean force. It means order. Order has returned. The mind no longer confuses noise with importance. It notices what matters and releases what does not. This selection happens automatically now. Automatic selection is the hallmark of habit aligned with identity. Identity governs behavior even when attention relaxes. This is why you will not lose this state when the day becomes busy. Busyness once scattered the mind because nothing held it together. Now something does. Expectation holds it. Expectation does not fluctuate with mood. Mood fluctuates. Expectation remains. This is why excitement was never required. Excitement spikes and collapses. Expectation endures. Endurance produces results over time, not through force, but through continuity. Continuity is what most men lack. You have installed it quietly. If you wake during the night, you will notice something subtle. There will be no urgency to think, no need to plan. Quiet will be present without effort. That quiet is not fragile. It will not break if thought passes briefly through. Thought no longer owns the space. Awareness does. Awareness does not need to do anything to remain present. It simply is. This is the place from which clear action arises naturally. Action will feel appropriate, not dramatic. Appropriate action lasts. Lasting action compounds. Compounding action creates momentum that does not require motivation. Motivation belongs to effort. Effort has completed its role. You are no longer preparing to win. You are someone who expects to win. Expectation shapes posture. Posture shapes conduct. Conduct shapes result. This sequence is now active without supervision. When morning comes, you will not need to remember what was said here. Memory belongs to conscious effort. Habit does not require memory. You will simply rise. Rising will feel ordinary. Ordinary success is the kind that endures. Extraordinary moments fade. Ordinary conditions remain. Remain now in this rest. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be reinforced. Nothing needs to be revisited. The mind has accepted its new posture. The posture holds itself, and what holds itself quietly governs everything that follows. Rest. Everything is arranged. There is a moment, often unnoticed, when the mind stops returning to the question of whether it will succeed. The question simply does not arise, not because it was answered with proof, but because it lost relevance. This is the moment when preparation ends and life begins to respond differently. You are resting inside that moment now. Most men carry the question of success with them like a quiet burden. They revisit it each morning. They measure their days against it. They wonder whether they are moving forward or falling behind. This constant measurement exhausts the mind long before effort is applied. The mind was never designed to live inside a question. Questions are tools, not dwellings. When a question remains unanswered too long, it becomes a weight. The weight produces caution. Caution delays action. Delay weakens confidence. The cycle repeats. That cycle has ended here. The mind no longer asks whether winning is possible. It proceeds as though cooperation is normal. This assumption does not shout. It does not require defense. It simply exists. Existence without argument is power. Power that does not need to announce itself is the only kind that endures. At this stage, even the idea of maintaining confidence feels unnecessary. Maintenance implies fragility. Fragile states must be guarded. Permanent states do not. The mind now treats readiness as part of itself, not something added. What is part of the self is not revisited daily. This is why true change often feels quiet rather than dramatic. Drama belongs to transition. Stability belongs to arrival. You have arrived at stability. Stability does not eliminate movement. It removes turbulence. Movement continues, but without resistance. Resistance once consumed energy before action began. That energy is now conserved. Conserved energy expresses itself as steadiness. Steadiness expresses itself as reliability. Reliability expresses itself as trust. Trust alters how life responds. People cooperate more readily with those who are settled. Circumstances align more easily with those who are not divided within. Opportunity recognizes readiness before readiness recognizes opportunity. This is why men who expect to win often appear to be met halfway by life. Life is not favoring them. It is responding to coherence. Coherence is the alignment of thought, feeling, and expectation. Where coherence exists, Friction decreases. Friction once made effort feel heavy. That heaviness has lifted. Now effort feels proportional. It matches the task instead of exceeding it through anxiety. Anxiety once added weight that did not belong to the work itself. Work performed without anxiety is lighter, even when it is demanding. Demand no longer feels threatening. Threat belonged to uncertainty. Uncertainty has been resolved not by answers, but by agreement. Agreement is the mind deciding it no longer needs to argue with itself. When the inner argument ends, the outer world loses much of its power to disturb. Disturbance requires internal participation. Participation has been withdrawn. This does not mean indifference. It means clarity. Clarity allows engagement without entanglement. Entanglement once caused delay, second-guessing, and retreat. Retreat no longer feels appropriate. Movement feels natural. Natural movement does not rush. It waits when waiting serves and acts when acting serves. This discernment improves timing. Timing is the quiet advantage most men overlook. They believe success belongs to those who move fastest or hardest. In truth, it belongs to those who move at the right moment without hesitation. Hesitation no longer dominates here. The mind does not hesitate because it is not divided. Division once created inner resistance. Resistance drains strength. Strength is now available. Availability is not constant motion. It is readiness without strain. You may notice that even rest feels different now. Rest no longer feels like avoidance. It feels deserved. It feels complete. Complete rest restores the nervous system fully. A restored nervous system supports clear thought, steady emotion, and resilient action. This resilience does not come from toughness. It comes from lack of inner conflict. Inner conflict was the true source of fatigue. Fatigue is lifting. The mind now trusts itself. Trust removes the need for supervision. Supervision was exhausting because it never ended. Now there is nothing to supervise. The mind is no longer policing its own confidence. It is no longer monitoring its progress. Monitoring implied fear of failure. Failure no longer feels personal. It feels instructional when it appears, and it passes quickly. Passing quickly is the mark of mastery. The man who dwells in setbacks has not yet settled expectation. The man who adjusts and continues has. Continuation is the proof of belief. Belief does not shout. It persists. This persistence does not feel heroic. It feels ordinary. Ordinary success is the kind that accumulates quietly. Quiet accumulation produces results that appear sudden only to those who were not paying attention. You are paying attention differently now. You are no longer watching for danger. You are watching for relevance. Relevance simplifies perception. Simplified perception clarifies choice. Clear choice strengthens action. Strong action builds momentum. Momentum sustains itself when not interrupted by doubt. Doubt was the interruption. The interruption has been removed. At this stage, even affirmations are no longer required. Affirmations are tools for installation. Installation is complete enough to hold. What holds does not need repetition to survive. Repetition may continue naturally, but it is no longer necessary. The mind has learned the pattern. Patterns, once learned, repeat themselves without effort. This is why tomorrow will feel different without you trying to make it so. Trying would reintroduce effort. Effort is no longer the source of movement. Movement now arises from alignment. Alignment does not ask permission. It proceeds. You will notice this first in small ways. You will speak sooner when something needs to be said. You will act sooner when action serves. You will stop sooner when stopping serves. This balance is rare. It is the balance of a mind that is no longer negotiating with itself. Negotiation once consumed attention. Attention is now free. Free attention sharpens. Perception. Sharp perception improves judgment. Judgment produces consistency. Consistency builds reputation. Reputation opens doors long before effort reaches them. These doors open quietly. You may not notice them immediately. That is a sign you are no longer waiting for validation. Validation was once a substitute for certainty. Certainty has replaced it. Certainty does not seek approval. It moves. As sleep deepens now, there is no instruction left to give. Instruction would imply incompletion. Incompletion is no longer present. The mind is resting in agreement. Agreement is the final state. From this state, winning does not feel like something you pursue. It feels like something you continue. Continuation is the highest form of success. Success that continues does not need celebration to exist. It simply remains. Remain. Now in this rest, nothing needs attention. Nothing needs adjustment. Nothing needs to be remembered. The mind has accepted its posture. The posture is steady, and what is steady governs quietly, completely, and without effort. Rest. Everything that needed to be arranged has been arranged.